Since the start of the League of Legends meta, a lot of people have debated, do you play your style or do you just play to the meta? And I say you can do a little bit of both. And I didn't mean to be dramatic in taking off my glasses. There was just a really big smudge on them and I wanted to get them off my face. So, in this video I kind of want to just explore, the stylistic differences you can have based on what meta it is, or basically what you can do to subvert the meta and play your own style, or find your own style within the meta, and instead of breaking the meta, just abusing it in the same way that other teams in Challenger, in Worlds right now, abuse the meta as well. It's going to differ a lot from solo queue, which I'm going to cover pretty quickly, but to use an example from a traditional sport, I'm going to say soccer because I'm a soccer referee. I see a lot of soccer, from 11-year-olds to 18-year-olds, which you can argue, oh, they're kids, who cares? But, there are a lot of teams with a lot of different styles, and there isn't a set meta in soccer unless you want to argue more defenders than attackers is the meta. But again, even then, that can change. You can have a three defenders, three attackers, and then four midfielders. That might work. That could be interesting. That's probably bad math too. Nah, there's also a goalie. So, teams, they might have a strategy where they just pass it to the winger runs 50 yards up the field and then crosses it in. That's what I like to do when I play FIFA. Or you might have players who, do the tiki-taka and just push the ball all the way up the field by constantly passing it, and the defense has no idea where it's going to go next. So that's playing to their own strengths right there, is their amazing passing. Or in the case of my previous example, amazing speed and running. Or you could just have your defender clear it up the field, and then your attacker just sprints right past every single defender, gets the ball, he's not offsides, bam, 1v1 with the goalie, it's in the back of the net. So there is a lot of variance in these other sports like that. Jesus, that's loud. Which you're not going to be able to find in League that much unless you are doing solo queue, in which case you don't have to adhere to the meta as strictly. Because in League of Legends, we have our meta. We have the top laner, the jungler, the mid laner, and then the bot lane. Everybody knows that already. And it's what you can do within the confines of these roles that define the meta. So right now, it's mostly tank top laners. We saw Jax versus Kennen last night, which is extremely unorthodox, but it worked, which is what I'm going to get into a little bit later when I talk about teams playing to their style. So at the moment, again, you need at least one tank. You need a support that can use Ardent Censer, and you need an ADC that isn't Jhin, because he can't abuse Ardent Censer. The jungler, it could be anyone from, the early game gank ability of Elise or Rek'Sai or Lee Sin, or it could be, just the late game mega tank Sejuani, or Zac was played at Worlds but not very effectively, or whoever else you can fit in that jungle role, Gragas. And, that is where you can try to build your own style. In solo queue, you can just play whatever the fuck you want and succeed. And that's just an entirely different beast than ranked 5s. In solo queue, you can one-trick a champion to Diamond 5. Anybody can. That is just learning the map, learning your jungle pathing, learning how to trade effectively. And that is mainly why LS will tell you to play Annie until you're like platinum, and then you can learn other champions, because a lot of it is just knowing how to play the game of League of Legends. But then you get up to Challenger, and that's where you have Annie bot, who can play Annie in basically any role. You have Tyler1, who plays Draven ADC every single game, and he makes it work because he's the one trick Draven. And that is where you can build up your own style. If you want to go hardcore balls to the wall no matter what, there is a champion in every single role that can go balls to the wall. And it's great. But it might not suit the meta. So hold off on playing Aurelia top lane for a little bit if you know you might not be so successful at it. But if that's what you've honed and refined, then by all means, go for it. But it's not going to really work in a ranked 5s setting, or not even ranked 5s. It's flex queue, which nobody even plays. So I don't know why I'm talking about that. I meant in a competitive 5v5 setting. Nobody is playing Aurelia because you have to adhere to an even more strict meta at that point, unless you have a different strategy that suits your style that you play around. And I'm going to use Longzhu pre-quarterfinals collapse when I talk about this next part. But this is also something TSM tried to pull off against Misfits in their Game 7, and they failed because they suck. When you pick Jace as your carry top laner as opposed to a Cho'Gath or a Maokai, which are the only other top laners you're probably going to see for the most part, you need to win early, and you need to adapt your team's style around that. You can't just have, your winger that can run 50 yards down the field go, all right, now you're the back, you're going to be the center back that just clears the ball up the field. It's like, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't know how to do that. He certainly can't play that as effectively as other people who do know how to do that. So why are you going to make him do that? Why are you going to put Hauntzer on Jace when you know Svenskeren is not going to camp top lane, and you don't put Bjergsen on a roaming champion that can go up and camp the shit out of this Jace? That doesn't suit your style. Why are you picking against your style when you should be picking what your style is, which is just put Hauntzer on a tanky bruiser or put him on just a full tank. Let him be that soaking, full-on, just damage sponge, which has been successful in the past and could have been successful in this past game. But instead, TSM, they didn't play to their style. Instead, they tried to do something else. They fell on their faces. They lost out of Worlds. GG. But when Longzhu does it, they pick that Taliyah, who can use her ultimate to get up top lane and secure Jace a kill. They make sure their Sejuani is constantly top lane, camping that Cho'Gath or that Trundle or that Maokai over and over and over again, as to make sure, this Jace is going to get fed, their tank is going to be useless. This is the style we play. This is the style we have cultivated over the entire summer season. This is what we're good at. And they know it. Which is why Khan was the number 2 ranked player at Worlds overall, and why I thought Longzhu was going to actually carry themselves to Worlds. Because their style was make sure either Khan or BDD get fed, and then Prey and Gorilla are going to win the 2v2 no matter what. And that was their style. But in this past series, they kind of didn't play to that style because they tried those cheesy picks. They tried the Jax, but then they were counterpicked with a Kennen, so they didn't really play the map as well as they should because they kind of tried to rely on Khan to win the 1v1s, when in reality, he won most of his lanes, unless he was Jace solo, by getting ganks and getting camped over and over and over again. So it was, again, them not playing to their style, them adapting, seeing what they can do, and then just falling flat on their faces. And it's something that these coaches and these players need to keep in mind is, yes, there are different ways to play the meta, there are different ways to do things, but unless you've practiced them, unless you've done this style before, you're not going to be able to. Which is why I'm going to bring up the Gigabyte Marines, which they tried basically everything except for standard until the last game. And that's kind of what bit them in the ass, because in the first game they play, excuse me, my throat is dry. That's a little better. In the first game they play, my throat is still dry. In the first, holy cow, you can just skip like 10 seconds. In the first game they play, they chose these cheesy picks, and oh, is it cheese or is it a legitimate strategy? We're not going back to that, but they chose this ultra tower pushing comp, which was their style. They knew exactly what they were doing because they practiced this was their style, and it broke the meta. It was the one thing that kind of broke the meta. Then they tried it again versus Longzhu, but it didn't work out because Longzhu already knew this is their style. We're going to practice how to counter their style. Then they do. So it's all over from there, and now nobody knows what to do. So they try to play standard, and playing standard was not in their playbook at all. So they fall flat on their faces, except for against Immortals, where they beat Immortals, and Immortals fucking sucks, and it makes me very sad because now they're not even in the LCS anymore. But the point remains, Gigabyte Marines knew what they were good at, and that was that hyper aggressive tower pushing. That was that early game, just relentless aggression, and they didn't play to it, and as a result, the meta just crushed them. So, if you're coaching a team, or if you're like a higher up level coach looking at this, just please, for the love of God, stick to what you're good at. Play to your own strategies. Keep these strategies in mind and hone them to a point where you know you can't get countered unless like there's one back-breaking thing that could counter you, in which case just ban Janna. But what I'm trying to say here is you can, as a team, pull together a new different style, like what Gigabyte Marines tried to do, what Longzhu was successful with in the summer split, and what TSM attempted to copy but ultimately failed on. These are things that you can practice if you want to be, even in this current meta, if you want to be super early game jungling and pressure, pick a carry top laner with Lee Sin and then just constantly camp that tank so he can never get huge and never soak up a lot of damage. And then if you can rely on the 2v2 to win, or if you can't, pick some roaming champion mid lane like Corki or Talia that, or Kassadin at level 6 that can go down there and then can help out that bot lane. But again, this is gonna kind of get deeper into, oh, but then the enemy team will know that you're playing for the late game bot and then just pick Caitlyn. It's like, yeah, but you can counter that as well by doing something else. And it's just a game of tic-tac-toe all the way down. It's not tic-tac-toe, it's much more complicated than that. Like checkers, maybe. Or 3D Mahjong in the Windows App Store. But you get what I'm saying. It's basic what I'm saying when I say stick to your strategy and just keep to it. And then hone it like those one tricks will in solo queue. Like Tyler 1 didn't become a challenger Draven one trick by just winging it. It's because he played that thing for like millions of games across millions of matchups in metas for years and knows exactly the ins and outs of his champion. So you, despite the fact that the meta will change and will shift, if you want to be known for early game aggression, or if you want to be known for like, oh, this super interesting constantly roaming around comp where you have, Nunu Smite support counter jungling the enemy jungler. It's like, yeah, I know I brought that up again. I know that people on Reddit don't like that, but I don't care. But if you want these unusual strategies to work, you have to make sure, all right, does it fit in this meta? Can it work in this meta? Gigabyte Marines said our hyper tower pushing can work in this meta. So they tried it out, it worked, and then it didn't, and then they went back to standard, and then they got fucked. And moral of the story is, just stick to it. Like, you don't see everybody constantly changing their strategies at the drop of a hat. Like, yeah, there are adaptations in a best of 3 series, but when one strategy fails, you don't just go, all right, throw it out the window completely. Let's do something completely new that we haven't practiced before. It's like, no. If I'm working with this team and I know we want super scaling late game, but we also don't want to fail in the early game, I'll pick something like a pick comp, maybe. Elise mid lane, Elise jungle, Maokai top, Syndra mid, and I mean, that already right there is pretty nasty. Or maybe if you want some early game pressure to go along with your Elise Renekton is always an insane combo, as long as you don't pick it into something like Cho'Gath or Maokai, in which case you're probably stupid for leaving both of those champions up and giving them an option, unless that is part of your strategy because you know they can't play tank top laners. But I'm getting way too ahead of myself again. So, moral of the story, just stick to the strategy. If you're an up and coming coach and you see TSM play against their strategy, reprimand them for it. Like, everyone was bitching about all of these armchair analysts on Reddit being like, why did they pick Jace? Oh, the draft wasn't the problem. And it's like, it kind of was, because that's not their style. They haven't really played that all worlds, and it wasn't successful. It was a bad idea to change their style in the last game. Like, I understand Gnar was banned, but Cho'Gath was still up, and then you just let Hauntzer be Cho'Gath. And then, like, I even said they should have picked Corki that first pick, or Orianna, or something along those lines. Something safe for Bjergsen. Like, so it might not have the carry potential that they would want, but it would have been better than what ended up happening because, well, we all know what happened. This was a regret buy. I have buyer's remorse after this one. I'm a little salty about it, but yeah, that's just me. But yeah, everyone, like, I don't really agree with the head coach of TSM stepping down. I think, it was a combination of draft and the team style clashing that was a part of the problem. But those both do come down to the coach, and it was a bad decision in that last game to do a style that they weren't comfortable with because they obviously lost. I said that like way too many times in a row already. I am very tired. And my throat still hurts for some reason. But yeah. I know I've been saying this point a lot in this 17-minute video so far, but it's something that really needs to be hammered in. If you're VOD reviewing, you have to notice these things. Like, this is what analysts will look for in, like, strategy. Well, not anymore in NALCS because they're switching back to best of one. But if you're watching LCK, if you're watching LPL, people will notice, alright, this guy loves to play carry top laners. We can deny him that, or we can expect it and counter it in a different way. Because if we know their style, then we know how they're going to play around that style. And you, as that coach with that predictable style, needs to say we need either a backup style that we could fall back on in case we do get countered, or we need to figure out how to counter their counter within our own grasp. So maybe instead of Jace, you pick Jax or something. Or maybe instead of the Cassiopeia mid, you pick Kassadin mid. Or, I know they're not two similar champions at all, really. I don't even know why I said that. But, as a coach, you just gotta look and see what is our style, what do we want to excel at, and it's something that a lot of amateur teams do wrong because they sit there and they think, well, let's just play the meta champions, let's see how everything goes, and we'll scout players that look good together. And it's like, yeah, kind of, but at the same time, you're gonna want to have an identity. You're gonna want to have, like, what do we want to do? Do we want to be a skirmishing team? Do we have the shot calling for that? Or do we want to be, like, this late game powerhouse CLGEU farm to 60 minutes team? Or do we want to kind of go more aggressive in this meta and see if we can do that hyper pushing tower comp that Gigabyte Marines did? Or do we want to just play the exact safe meta where we have a hyper tank top, a hyper tank mid, a Kog'Maw with a Janna, and a Cassiopeia, and just play that every freaking game? Where, I mean, if that works, it works. That's the meta. But people will learn how to break the meta, and if you play so basic, if you play the same way every time, it's like rock, paper, scissors. People are going to say, oh, you're playing for the late game? Well, we'll play for the early game. Oh, you're playing for the early game? Well, we'll play a pick comp or something. I don't know, but it's not exactly rock, paper, scissors. But if you play a lot of StarCraft, you can kind of see, like, what counters what, and you have to alter your style every single freaking game. You have to Like say, okay, instead of doing 8 pool, I'm gonna go for uh, the fucking tunneling thing. I forget its name. That pops up in the enemy base, and then you just win the game because you put all of your queens inside of it, and then all of a sudden your entire army is just in the enemy base, and now you win. Or if you're playing Terran, it's like, alright, do I go Mech or Protoss? Do I do a fuck ton of little drops in their main with my Marines? Or do I just go for huge ass team fighting? Like, it depends on who you're playing against. Like, if I'm playing against Haas, I know he's going to try to fucking cheese me or go for Oracle spam, so I'm going to try to prepare for that. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, he's playing Standard? What? That's cheese for Haas. So, this might be going over a lot of your heads because I don't know if there's any overlap between StarCraft 2 or League of Legends, but it's just all the same basic principle. Play to your strengths, play to your style, and if someone finds out the way to counter it, you have to find out the way to counter that counter in that specific matchup. And it's turtles all the way down, etc., etc. I hope this video was slightly informative to some of you people. If you're an Reddit armchair analyst, I want to implore you to keep trying, because everyone started there at some point. Even Parth started out making YouTube videos, then he got noticed by TSM and got picked up. Even Zix was the silver analyst and wrote stuff to CLG, and then they were like, oh, why are we going to listen to a silver scrub? And then he actually moved into the house, and they were like, oh, this silver scrub is actually fucking amazing at what he does. So, if you do want to be an analyst, just keep trying. I mean, there's no other way to do it than just keep trying. You got to play to your style. My style is picks and bans. I love watching picks and bans, and I think most games can be won or lost in picks and bans, as long as you know that team's style. Because you don't want to pick a Jace if you don't play around your top lane. Or maybe even put the Jace mid. Why wouldn't... That's an option. Come on, you could put a Rumble top Jace mid. That's a dirty poke comp. I don't even remember what their jungler was. If it wasn't Jarvan, then it wouldn't really work out, because then you have no way to lock them down onto that Rumble ultimate unless it's a Sejuani. But as long as it's not a Gragas, which since Fenskaren did play a lot of Gragas, then it would work out. So, yada yada blah blah blah. I mean, I've been rambling for 20 minutes, and if you sat through the entire thing listening to that, then bravo. Like, damn, I don't even know how you put up with me, because I don't want to put up with me. That's why I make YouTube videos, so other people have to put up with me. But yeah, I hope hopefully this video was helpful to someone. Hopefully it kind of explained, why a lot of people might have been dissatisfied with TSM. Hopefully it kind of showed a little bit of insight into, how a coach might think, or how an analyst might think in similar situations, or yeah, you know what I'm kind of getting at. So thank you for watching. This is another video after I've had 100 subscribers, so thank you again, all 100 subscribers of you. I think I'm at 102 now, which, I'm not counting every single one or anything. But thank you, every single one of you subscribers. It all means a lot to me. It helps me, continue to push forward. I'm going to try to make more content. I'm going to try to be more consistent about it, because I've had a really rough patch, and it's not like anything bad was happening. It was just like I had a lot of trouble getting myself up out of bed, even to just like go to work. But lately, I've been, doing a lot better. So I'm going to try to make more videos, and even if this video wasn't very informative or the best thing I've ever put out, I hope it at least helped someone out there. And if it's one of you 100 subscribers, then thank you very much. If it wasn't one of my subscribers, then thank you for watching this far into my video, because holy cow, I don't know how you can stand me this long if you don't even know me. But yeah, I think that's about everything I needed to say now. I don't have anything else I need to talk about. Nothing tertiary. Oh, my League of Legends exchange guy, gift exchange guy, got me mechs and minions. So thank you very much for getting me mechs and minions. If you're watching this, no, I'm posting it to the wrong Reddit account. If you had user sfrankdaddy, then that's me. Thank you very much for sending me mechs and minions. It means a lot to me. The dude who I have, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to send you because I don't know what to send you. Your profile doesn't give me anything, dude. But I'm gonna do my best, and hopefully you like the gift I get you. Everyone, be good. Enjoy the rest of Worlds. I had Longzhu winning the entire thing, but not anymore. Haha. Uh, that makes me sad. But now I'm pretty sure RNG is gonna win the whole thing, and if they don't, then Misfits is. You heard it here first, folks.